I'm Joanna Small, the Public Information Officer for the Wheat Ridge Police Department. It's Friday, August 4th, and this is your WRPD Video Week in Review. Here's a summary of some of the most notable incidents your Wheat Ridge patrol officers responded to over this past week. Overnight, an observant WRPD officer stopped a vehicle on Kipling near I-70 Frontage Road South for having an unreadable temporary tag. The officer learned the driver had a revoked license due to being what's called a habitual traffic offender. The vehicle registration was expired and she could not provide proof of valid insurance. There was also methamphetamine, drug paraphernalia, and an open alcoholic beverage container in the vehicle. The driver is now facing charges for possession of a controlled substance, paraphernalia, open container, and a number of traffic violations to include driving with a revoked license. On August 3rd, officers responded to I-70 eastbound at Colorado 58 when a semi-truck was unable to stop and rear-ended a truck hauling a trailer full of motorcycles. The accident involved two additional vehicles that were impacted when the truck and trailer were thrust forward. This snarled up traffic on I-70 for a good chunk of time during rush hour. The semi-driver was issued a summons for being the at-fault vehicle. Also on August 3rd, a driver was contacted on Ward Court for a parking complaint. Officers learned his vehicle had an ATL, or attempt to locate, out of Denver for a hit and run. Routine clearance of his name in law enforcement databases also revealed he had two failure to appear warrants for his arrest. The driver was jailed on his warrants. On August 2nd, Wheat Ridge officers with the West Metro SWAT team participated in two operations. The first was an assist to the ATF to serve a high-risk search warrant on Yukon Court, and the second was a help to Arvada to take a homicide suspect into custody in Lakewood. The suspect in that operation went mobile and was taken into custody by Denver SWAT. Also on August 2nd, Denver police were pursuing a carjacking suspect, and Westminster police had a unit following Denver. Both police vehicles were involved in a minor accident with two other vehicles on westbound I-70 at Kipling. There were fortunately no injuries and no WRPD units were involved, but we did handle that crash report. Overnight on July 31st, officers responded to reports of a male hitting vehicles and stealing items from them around the 3500 block of Allison Street to Ralston Road and Carr Street. An officer en route to the call spotted the fleeing vehicle traveling at an estimated 100 miles an hour on Holland. We lost sight of it there, but located it again in the 9900 block of West 38th a few minutes later. The male suspect drove through a fence in order to evade officers. Arvada police located the vehicle and the driver fled on foot but was taken into custody after a short pursuit. We learned the truck he was in was an unreported steal out of Golden. The suspect is now facing a number of charges, from aggravated motor vehicle theft to felony criminal mischief, felony eluding, DUI drugs, and numerous hit and runs. Also on July 31st, Wheat Ridge officers were contacted by Denver police to alert us of a domestic violence incident that occurred at one of our motels in which a man struck a woman several times, causing facial fractures and a black eye. The suspect was arrested and jailed on both second and third degree assault domestic violence charges. Again on July 31st, a minor motor vehicle crash occurred on the I-70 eastbound on-ramp at Kipling. One of the drivers did not feel safe pulling over, so they both drove to the police station. One of the drivers caused a disturbance inside our lobby, and both drivers had to be separated by officers. The at-fault driver was issued a summons for the accident, but the incident inside our lobby is still under review. On July 30th, a woman was contacted at 49th and Kipling for having a misused license plate and gave consent for her vehicle to be searched. During the search, a fake $50 bill was located, as well as check stock for printing checks that contained forged signatures. The suspect was arrested on forgery, possession of drug paraphernalia, and traffic charges. Overnight on July 29th, officers were called to I-70 eastbound at Kipling for a single vehicle crash. According to witnesses, the vehicle struck the guardrail, stopped briefly, then continued eastbound. It was located by officers nearby. The passenger was unconscious but breathing, and the driver was gone. While searching that area, officers located a woman laying face down against a fence. She admitted to being the driver, and both people were transported to the hospital. The driver is now facing vehicular assault, DUI, and hit-and-run charges. Also, earlier on July 29th, a suspect was contacted in one of our motel parking lots after a concerned community member called in what's called a ready report. Report every drunk driver immediately. Officers observed illegal weapons and fentanyl in plain view. The suspect became uncooperative when officers attempted to take him into custody. He was issued a summons for possession of a controlled substance, illegal weapons, as well as obstruction. That same shift of officers also responded to a DUI collision at 44th and Yarrow when a drunk driver crashed into a metal fence. She was transported to the hospital as a result of that collision. There were also several incidents we told you about as standalone posts on our various social media pages this week. On Tuesday, we contacted a man who matched the description of someone seen masturbating on our Greenbelt Trail. We could not definitively conclude the man was the same person involved in the indecent exposure incident, but we did learn he's a violent sexual predator with 2 no-bond felony warrants for sexual offenses out of California. He was arrested on the warrants and faces a new charge for failure to register as a sex offender. On Wednesday, we told you about a routine traffic stop that uncovered 3,500 fentanyl pills, 16 grams of methamphetamine, 7 grams of cocaine, and a small amount of heroin and liquid fentanyl. We also located a loaded .380 handgun in the vehicle, which was being driven by a suspect who had been deported 3 times after arrest for large amounts of drugs. He is now facing a slew of new, very serious charges. Now here's a case detectives could really use your help in resolving, so please take a minute to look at your screen. Just after the 4th of July, this man and woman wrote a check that did not clear at Applejack Wine and Spirits. This was the second time they wrote a bad check, the first occurrence of which was in late June. The checks were presumably stolen from a deceased person. If you believe you recognize either of these individuals, please reach out to our investigative team at the number that is listed there on your screen. And finally, special thanks to everyone who attended National Night Out at Hayward Park on Tuesday. We know it was a bit rainy and lots of surrounding agencies canceled their events, but we forged ahead, and so did many of you. Thank you for taking the time to get to know us just a little bit better. That's all for now. We'll see you next time, and remember, if you need us, we are always just minutes away.